Oh, and an shocking, absolutely shocking turn of events. The SNP are going to make it illegal to protest the Scottish Parliament. Now, for some reason, there was a few idiots on Twitter who didn't seem to understand this. Now, when you say that you're going to protest a physical location, people think you're talking about the physical location. So, see if you say, "Oh, I protested the Scottish Parliament," no one's going to go, "Wow, where did you protest it?" Because then you look at them like they're an idiot and go, "At the Scottish Parliament." Right? You won't go, yeah, I protested Kim Jong Un's house. Did you? Where have you got any North Korea? No, I did it for my bedroom. Like, no, nobody thinks that. But for some reason, there was some clowns on Twitter that were, for some reason, thinking it was the idea of Parliament, even though in the article it's the physical location. Like any reasonable man would think when you hear that phrase. But basically, Holyrood is changing its legal status to make it easier for the police to remove protesters. Scottish Parliament bosses have asked the Home Office to designate the building and its grounds as a protected site in the interests of national security. Interesting. Interesting. So you cannot protest the Parliament at the Parliament. You need to do it far away from the Parliament, which means you can't protest the Parliament anymore. You can still protest the idea of the Parliament, but that's not what the article's talking about. Legislation has now been laid in Westminster under the Serious Organised Crime and Police Act 2005, which is due to come into force on October the 1st. At present, the police have limited powers to intervene if there is no substantive offence taking place, such as protesters making a prolonged noise outside the entrance, because protesting is a legal right and protected under freedom of speech. Lawful, peaceful protest. You can't just start throwing Molotovs at police and everything. But you can have your protest because that's a protected right. But from next month, it will be a criminal offence to remain on the parliamentary estate without lawful authority, punishable by a £5,000 fine or a year in jail after a conviction. The change, which will apply to all the landscaped grounds and ponds area where most protests take place, brings Holyrood into line with Westminster and Welsh Senedd. Public gatherings are an almost daily part of Holyrood life, with groups gathering to protest against government policy, demand change, or support a particular cause, because the point of a protest is so that the government can hear you. However, the government has went, these plebs, so annoying. They're so annoying with their needs and wants, and they keep trying to tell us about them. I want. I don't want to hear it as I'm walking into Parliament. Get rid of them. That's the beauty about being in charge. If people are doing things you don't like, you can just pass a law to make it illegal. Oh, fucking governments, man. Uh, in the last week alone, hundreds of people have held demos in support of women's rights and against vaccine passports, as they have absolutely every right to do. The grounds are also a popular place for relaxation in the summer. Presiding officer Alison Johnson said that in practical terms, this offers grounds for removing those on site in contravention of Holyrood's estate management policy. This could apply to breaking up short term protests as well as preventing people setting up camps on the grounds, such as the pro independence camp evicted in 2016. The area involved is defined on a map included in the new legislation, which shows that protesters could simply cross the street to avoid prosecution under it. So basically, like, we're sick of being harassed with questions from the plebs. The plebs keep expecting things from us. Oh my god, I hate government people. I hate politicians, man. In a letter to MSPs, the PO stressed that the change would not affect the Parliament's policy of welcoming and facilitating peaceful protests that respect the rights of others. I mean, it does if they're not even allowed anywhere near the Parliament. She said, we recognise that such protests are an essential part of expression and democracy in Scotland. Yeah, do not even for a single second pretend that you care about that. Your party just literally passed like one of the most stringent speech laws in all of Europe. Like, do not act for 1 second that you give a fuck about that. The SPCB, the cross-party MSP-led Scottish parliamentary management body, does not foresee invoking this power frequently. Hmm And only in cases where visitors are in breach of the terms and conditions for use of the parliamentary estate. At present, the police have limited ability to intervene if there is no substantive criminal offence taking place. Yeah, because there is none, because they have a right to do it, because it is their protected right to freedom of expression. And you've just decided, like I said, if the plebs are doing something that we don't like, we'll simply pass a law to make it illegal. Human rights, more like human wrongs, boy. And disruptive protests can become especially prolonged. Well, maybe if you address their concerns, I appear to have fucked up here. Yeah, I fucked up here. Whoops. What have I done? Oh, sweet Jesus. I have no idea what I've just done. There we go. I need a new laptop. Yep, I fucked this up. I fucked the whole video up. But who gives a shit? It's fine. I'm not re-recording this. I'm just back in the studio after recovering from COVID. I'm fine, by the way. It was just like a mild cold. Didn't even have to take painkillers. But just because that was my experience doesn't mean it will be yours. Get the vaccine if you want. It's up to you. Just personally, obviously, I don't need it. But in regards to protests themselves, right now, personally, whenever I see a protest, maybe I'll disagree with the message, maybe I'll agree with it, maybe it'll be something I don't particularly care about. All of that is irrelevant. What matters and what is truly important is the fact that these protests are allowed to happen. And the point of these protests is that your voices are heard. And the people that you most want to hear your voices are the members of parliament, the people in that building, the ones that actually have the power to make change, as they very often do, without our support and without our consent. Something that they do constantly, all the time, every day. Oh, but yeah, but we vote them in. Yeah, well, when we vote them in, a bit of legislation will get tabled and no one in the country fucking wants it. But these politicians will vote it in anyway. Right? So they do these things without our consent, without our approval. So these are the people that we want to talk to. These are the people that we want our voices to be able to reach. However, we, the smelly plebs, the great unwashed, the proletariat, or whatever term you want to use, we've been told that we're not allowed to go near their big special ivory tower, lest they actually have to listen to our concerns and actually do something about it. So, like I said, I don't care what your protest is for, right? I don't care if it's something I agree with, disagree with, don't care about something I find weird, something I find puzzling. All of that is irrelevant. What is important is that you are able to actually have your protest in the first place, right? So, say for example, all these left-wing marches that you see everywhere, and everyone's waving their little communist flags and all that other loser shit, right? I want them to be able to do that. I want them to be able to do these things. Like the women's rights thing, everybody knows that me and feminists don't exactly get along. However, feminists being able to have their march and have their protests, absolutely. And should they be able to have it at the Houses of Parliament so that the people actually in charge can hear their voices? Absolutely they should. That's the point of a protest. That is the point. You want the people in charge to hear your voice so that they can make change. And 9 times out of 10, they will tell you to go fuck yourself because we're essentially under a little bit of a regime right now.